This is a very special anniversary First Amendment audit. I want to show you what can happen when the auditors and the members of the mainstream media join together to protect the First Amendment. This audit begins in 2017 at the Alameda County Family Courthouse, where we encountered Alameda County Sheriff's deputies who are contracted to protect the courthouse, and this family law attorney, Dominic Perino. After being alerted to a family law case that appeared to involve domestic violence that was being protected by members of the Oakland Police Department and the Alameda County DA's office, our team went to the family court proceedings, where this court clerk, while the court was in session and open and filled with members of the public, came to the doors and held the doors shut to prevent me from entering the courtroom. I had legally and timely filed a media request in that case, and I reported her to the deputies who are assigned to provide security for the courthouse. The court clerk never lost her job and was never prosecuted for her conduct. This is divorce attorney Dominic Perino. He is the attorney representing the father in the case that we're covering. The mother is self-represented, and no judge has tried to level the legal playing field during the 8 years of her divorce. And as the mother tried to address domestic violence issues with the Oakland police, mainstream media reported on problems the Oakland police officers were having in a sex scandal with a woman known as Celeste Guap, a victim who was moved by the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office to Florida during the middle of that scandal.
Was it not clear?
Well, I was asking one more question.
Maybe I was videotaping this,
Yeah.
sir?
What?
Sir, will you turn that off? I didn't allow you to do it.
Charged to have somebody.
Divorce attorney Dominic Perino asked for 3 police officers to escort him to his car after 2 reporters began to ask him questions and take photographs of him on a public sidewalk. These 3 Alameda County Sheriff's deputies, the same agency I had reported the court clerk to just moments earlier, were eyewitnesses to an Apple executive harassing, assaulting, and attempting to obstruct journalistic work in a story that was newsworthy about what he was doing to his wife in his family court case involving a divorce that contained issues related to domestic violence. The police officers did nothing.
Here you are with the vexatious litigant statute, or if you're using it as a, sir, please do not harass the press.
Who's harassing who?
I'm walking peacefully and I'm doing my
I
job.
have to have 2 police officers.
Sir, could you please have him stop harassing him?
Don't make him harassing.
Interfering with unpublished journalistic material is a penal code violation. I'm asking how familiar you are with the vexatious litigant statute, or if you're using it as a, sir, please do not harass. I'm walking peacefully and I'm doing my job.
Come on, dude.
I'm harassing this cop will tell me. He'll tell me. He'll tell me if I'm harassing.
Interfering with unpublished journalistic material is a
This case came to our attention after a mother told us that she was not getting any protection from the Oakland Police Department or the family courts in Alameda County. And while we had not been in the courts for most of the time that she was complaining, I would have to say that this didn't seem like a fair fight, even on a public sidewalk.
violation.
Violated First Amendment of right. You just did. You just violated First Amendment of right. You just violated First Amendment of right. Are we parked?
Sir, I'm just interested in finding out your opinion on the vexatious litigant statute and the appropriateness of it being used in a family law situation. Sir, do you have any comment about trying to have your former wife declare vexatious in the middle of a divorce situation? Are you familiar with the vexatious litigant statute, or did your attorney advise you about it? Sir, how much are you paying to declare your wife vexatious in the middle of a divorce proceeding? Sir, are you trying to limit your wife's access to the courts? Sir, is it true that you've had criminal complaints filed against you? To access the courts?
Yes, come here. Snappy, come here. Officer,
Just come on over, keep coming into the parking structure. I'm on the
I don't
first
want them
floor.
falling in my car. I don't even know what my license plate number is. I don't trust
Hang on. Let's step out of the roadway right now.
You heard that correctly. A divorce attorney asked a law enforcement officer to block us from following him to his car because he didn't want us to know his license plate number because he didn't trust us. And while we began working on issues related to domestic violence in our family courts, mainstream media and local politicians began working on SB 1421 to cover what police officers were doing when it came to domestic violence and sexual assault in their own families and how that might affect safety on our public streets. Of course, back in 2017, I, like most people in mainstream media, didn't know that a group of people known as the First Amendment auditors and YouTubers were already providing information and transparency about what police officers were doing in nearly every community across the country. The police officers knew it.
Family law matters. That is a matter of public interest. And this man...
All I asked you to do was give him up his face, please. Thank you.
This day shows the full cycle and the culture of protection. Police officers who protect lawyers, lawyers who protect police officers, and lawyers and cops who protect litigants who can afford to pay the lawyers the most money.
Give her her space. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told her. Give her her space, please. Is that necessary?
Yes, ma'am, it is. I've had threats on my reporters, and I have every right to document who is retaliating against my reporters. This man is a highly paid attorney in family law. He advertises to have wives
Can we go
declare.
ahead and have you guys get in the car, please?
I'm actually mostly interested in how it is that you decide it's appropriate to have your spouse declared. Are you trying to do that for a custody advantage? Do you think, how much money did you pay your attorney to have your ex-wife declared vexatious? Was it $10,000, $20,000, $30,000? How much money did you pay your attorney to have your ex-wife declared vexatious in your family law matter?
If you're recording me and I find out, I'm going to file a criminal complaint.
I am recording you. I'm telling you right now. I don't have to tell you anything.
You do not have my permission.
I don't need your permission on public property. Did you know that?
While this interview happened a year earlier in Santa Clara County, it did begin to establish a pattern of certain attorneys not wanting to be recorded.
Would you like to make a statement about Elena Berg and the questions surrounding that you set Elena Berg up for a forgery case involving Clyde Berg? Mr. Baugh, did you in fact get paid $65,000 to have Diana Dong declared vexatious for Oliver Garibay?
The Digital Scene Show here at Streaming Media West. Thank you. And you are with? I'm with Winov.
That pattern was a pattern of certain divorce attorneys protecting people who were clearly abusive and separating good mothers and fathers from their children simply for money.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
I'm Susan Bassey.
Oh, hi, Susan.
How are you?
Doing okay.
I want to talk to you about Heather Allen.
I'm not going to talk to you at all. I don't like being recorded.
I know a lot of us don't like being recorded. You're recorded every time you go in that courthouse. You know that, right?
No comment.
Sean, you've had Heather Allen in 2 of your cases where she had domestic violence cases and she ended up giving custody to the fathers in those cases. We have evidence that Heather Allen has been forging bills and having taxpayers pay those bills. You have no comment about that? Did you not profit from those cases, including Violet Brooks's case, where you made millions of dollars in that case, Sean?
In those days. And so, in Digi tradition, all we had to do was really wait for the sound designer. And it was 2 channels primarily because that was all you could reliably get onto a hard drive.
While there's very little information in our local news or in the mainstream media about attorneys who engage in criminal conduct, that information is newsworthy, and the public has a right to know what's going on.
Houghton and Valerie Houghton. Appearances of counsel, please.
Right, Chuck Smith with Valley Houghton.
Stuart Christie for Amir Allen.
And while local media has all but disappeared from courthouses across California, it was that day in our state's capital, in Sacramento, California, that I noticed a group of people known as YouTubers and First Amendment auditors who were present in the courthouse providing transparency and information to the public. And when an attorney stood and faced them and answered their questions instead of running away, I knew they were doing something important. But I also knew about the important work that my colleagues in mainstream media had done when it came to police records and SB 1421. And when I was given a copy of the Sunday San Jose Mercury and I saw those headlines splashed across the headline news, combined with an article about a prosecutor who had used his daughter as bait in a sexual molestation case, I realized that we are better together. And whether we do it in print or on television or on YouTube, most of us have a shared common interest and passion for the First Amendment. And it is that passion that provides the greatest information to the public and the greatest transparency on our elected officials and law enforcement agencies. It was the important work of the First Amendment Coalition combined with what I learned from the YouTubers that brought this case to my attention. This is Sahir Stefan. He's involved in a divorce case where his wife alleged domestic violence. And during the time period she alleged domestic violence, Sahir Stefan was involved in an improper sexual relationship with a subordinate who he'd worked together with to move a victim related to police officers in the Bay Area out of state. This victim, known as Celeste Guap, was sodomized, raped, and sexually assaulted by over 12 police officers, including officers of the Oakland Police Department who had been remiss in addressing the domestic violence cases brought to their attention.
Mr. Stefan, would you like to discuss with me about your wife hiring a private investigator while you're the victim's claims manager for the district attorney's office?
Thank you for asking.
And Mr. Hammond, who was it that threatened you that you used as a card to get some sympathy from Judge McGowan this morning? And how is it that you're representing Mr. Stefan? Are you aware that he's in bankruptcy court and that he says he only has $100 worth of clothing? And Mr. Hammond, is it true that you're representing Mr. Stefan for free so that you can get part of a settlement from the county, that you've colluded with Judge Towery and others? Do you have a comment, Mr. Stefan? Mr. Stefan, you cheated taxpayers by having an affair with Netta Redmond. Were you having an affair with a subordinate while you were the claims manager for the district attorney's office? Mr. Hammond, are you having your client jaywalk in violation of the law? Mr. Hammond, are you encouraging your client to jaywalk?
So while it may have taken a long time to get this audit done, it was important that we met some people along the way, learned how to deal with the obstacles to the First Amendment that we face on a daily basis, and make sure that we were united in our mission to provide greater transparency and information to the public. And tomorrow I hope you will join me as I go out to Oakland, California, and make sure that the reporters that do this important work for our print publications are paid a fair wage so that they can support their families and continue to do the important work that they do.